Journey began in October 2021. Yeah, and here I be. The day the earth shook got my attention. A message received from beyond this dimension. A disturbance on the inside. I forgot to mention. She's laying beside me with bad intention. Mask with duty, capture me with duty. All hands on deck. Just wanted to do we laid it on me. Even let me take control. What I was in was more than just a hole. Her moves are hasty, sexy lacy, desire to taste me. No love here, just waste me, just waste me. They all look different, but one and the same. Non-confrontational, always on their pain. Passive aggressive, the name of the game. I turn in the eye, to live in your soul. Caring for another made me feel whole. In love again, life out of control. She's tearing me down. Love taking its toll. Her moves are hasty, sexy lazy, desire to taste me. No love here, just waste me, just waste me. Weighted bliss, a black widow's kiss. Love is gone, reminisce. She be single-minded, doesn't know real love. Trying to find it from below, not above. Lower extremities, driven enemies, hands and elbows, sensual remedy. This thing is steep, let me remind ya. A mission at hand, pleasing the vagina. Her moves are hasty, sexy lazy, desire to taste me. No love here, just waste me, just waste me. What she brought to the table, brought to living nature, living in a fantasy world, looking for a happy. Till that little girl, for a minute she had me. Maybe the spring, we called on her stuff, then comes the truth. Damn, I just had enough. At the end of this road, it's such a long one to travel. Spiritually and mentally drained, I simply unravel. Her moves are hasty, sexy lazy, desire to taste me. No love here, just waste me, just waste me. 187, quick fix gets mine, sadistic, and undercover capper. So don't get it twisted. He's a snake, no better than a rat. Something in the game, he's gonna take that fraud. Full break million, just casing out with a stealing. Most of the time, what he takes, it doesn't need. It's in the danger to be free. He's a predator. You can love him or hate him. A menace to the hood. Follow up, he's a predator. Once yours is mine, he has no boundaries. Always crossing the line. He's a predator. Woo! He's a predator. He's a predator. He's a predator. A bully at heart, he's taking on them all. Men, women, children, girls call. Think it's a gangster because he carries a gun. Roll the 20 deep, some of them on the run. It hits you once if you don't say a word. Knows that he'll be back for a second or third. He's a predator. You can love him or hate him. A menace to the hood. A follower of him, he's a predator. Once yours and mine, he has to bounce. He's always crossing the line. He's a predator. He's a predator. He's a predator. He's a predator. Presented friendly, loot and serious. Running game with the serious. Not about him, but your man at home. I wanna be sliding when you're home alone. Wanna see if you easy when you put up a fight. Make things move when the time is right. So bait you with drugs, money is gifts, but when it doesn't get his way, his energy shifts. You'll be persistent, stay in the course, becoming consistent with no remorse. He's a predator. You can love him or hate him. A menace to the hood, a follower of your he's a predator. Once yours is mine, he has no boundaries, always crossing the line. He's a predator. He's a predator. He's a predator. He's a predator. Good morning. Sound down in the background from the LP. You Want to Be Me, Predator. Making papers easy, praise on the block, pop pipe for boys, young girls a lot. The possible fun, no it's yourself for yourself. Coming up sure it ain't good for your health. It's all business, you're not your friend. If you bring heat, your ties are losing. In this game, the codes don't fit. When he gets caught, your name he spits. He's a predator. You can love him or hate him. A menace to the hood. Follow up from his predator. Once yours and mine, he has no boundaries. Always crossing the line. He's a predator. Woo! He's a predator. 187 quick pick. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your host, as always, Sabir Lean. What's happening? What's going on? What's popping? Yeah, you know what's dropping. Another episode of Daddy's Right Here Live. Uh, I'm also working on another release. Yeah, yeah, I'll be doing that right after the show. I'm already in the labs. Got to turn around, stand up. There's the mic. There's the board. Time to rock and roll. But yeah, another day above ground, man. It's a great day to be alive, man. Great day to be alive, and we got some stuff to talk about. Yeah, we got some stuff to talk about, man. You see a lot of things every day when you observe people. You see people doing all kinds of things to themselves. You see all kinds of injections. We got this whole BBL movement. We have the 1 inch, 2 inch eyelashes. We have the sculpted beards and haircuts. We have men getting, the pieces put on, and it's a lot of things, man, that people are doing, all in the name of projecting an image of self that he or she wants the other person to believe. But it begs the question, like, what do you really think about yourself? What are you saying about yourself when you go through all of these things? And many of these things are extreme actions. What message are you sending? What is the intent behind the message that you're sending to other people? Because at the end of the day, the real question is, do you believe that which you are trying to portray to others? That's what the real question is. You know how you talking to some people sometimes and they come out with this, you know who you talking to, or do you know who I am? And the response to that should always be, well, do you know who you are? Do you know who you are? Because apparently, if you're asking me, do I know who you are? You have some delusions about who you are, which means that you really need to be the one addressing yourself about that, because that is an issue. Because obviously, you've put yourself in a position above others, or along with others who are not who you really are, but you seem to want to be. Yeah, it sounds confusing, doesn't it? Because it is. It actually is confusing. It's very confusing because my experience has been many people are clueless about who they really are. So I'm going to go right on in to the article. So this is an article from Very Well Mind. The title of the article is Self Improvement: How to Improve Your Self Worth and Why It's Important. And many don't even realize there's a difference between self worth and self esteem. So, self worth, just so you understand this, is an internal sense of being worthy of love, belonging, and respect from others, and of being good enough and capable as a person. It's different from self esteem, which can be based on external factors like achievements and successes, and can be inconsistent. A healthy sense of self worth can be important for our relationships, career, and health. And some of the characteristics listed here for self worth are believing you are worthy, good, and lovable, regardless of what's happening in your life, accepting and loving yourself as you are without conditions, practicing self compassion and treating yourself with kindness, care, and respect, believing in your potential to improve, learn, change, and grow, being able to have flaws, and make mistakes without threatening your identity or worth. Right? So before you can improve your self worth, you need to understand what self worth is. We often have conversations about our jobs, and how much we're paid at our jobs, and how some say, well, they could never pay me my full worth. Yet you conduct yourself in a manner that may warrant even less than what you're receiving. Because when you value what it is that you do, regardless of whether you're flipping burgers or whether you're overseeing a country, right? There's a belief about oneself and the ability and the capacity of their actions that really uh, should be reflected in doing those things. There's a timing necessary for flipping a burger. After you've done it for a while, you know that automatically, without having a timer, that this is the time. It's within you. It's like you're connected to it. You're in sync with it. So it's a natural reaction. It's a natural reaction of timing. You know that this is something that somebody is going to eat. Who is going to eat it? Would you want to eat something that looks like that? And the same thing with dialogue. When you're spewing comments out of your mouth, are they being offered to a person with empathy in mind, with compassion in mind? How are you stating, excuse me, things, especially difficult things to people? Are you feeding it to them in a manner where it's palpable? Where they can actually, absorb it and understand that there's no ill intent behind it, but this, in fact, is policy. Agree or disagree, this is the policy, and this is what we are expected and expecting you to adhere to. So it's all about your perception of you. This all comes down to a perception of you. So improving it is going to be significant, because if you remain in the current condition, and I'm saying in the current condition, because if you haven't been doing any work on yourself, if you've only been judging your successes in life based on what you have superficially perceived, because you, if you're not digging and you're basing these things on your successes and your happiness, the superficial things, then you in fact are in this group that I'm speaking about. And that's most people. Most people don't invest time, energy, and effort into looking at themselves beyond a uh, the bare minimum. The bare minimum. I have this. This is what makes me happy. I have that. That's what brings value to me. I own these things. These things are significant to me. Therefore, I have fallen in alignment with the perception of others or the behaviors and attitudes of others. So I am therefore worthy of being at this table of a sort, to use an analogy, right? So it's work that's not being done. And this is why we have so many failed relationships. This is why we have so many struggles and so many difficulties in life with other people, because of the vacillating that we continue to do, which you talked about in the definition, the inconsistency, the inconsistency of the projection of oneself to others. Because when you look in the mirror, and that brings to mind the witch who kept going to the mirror and saying to the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" Right? She had to ask the mirror that, and the mirror would respond, "It's this and that, or it's you and you this, and then there's something else. Someone else came along who, from the perception, the perspective of the mirror, right? Now, the mirror represented something other than the relationship between itself and the looker. The mirror represented society. The witch's establishment of being fair was not being based on beauty, but of the self worth. But the storyline, in order to maintain some basic appearance, couldn't go that deep. And they used an image of a character that was beautiful, beautiful versus ugly. And ugly was not the look that we saw before us. Ugly and beautiful were based in the content of one's character. So, what we use as a mirror every day to see that we look good, that everything is straight, that you know what I'm saying? That it's different. So I want you to take that mirror that the witch was using, right? And throw it away. Throw that away. Because that one is established based on what others have defined as being fair, beautiful. Because this is what you want to tell yourself. And you're asking in many ways for your mirror to tell you the same thing. You comb your hair, you fix your hair, you pat it and all this, and you put all this on, you put the makeup on, and you trim the beard and mustache and everything, and then you stand there and you tell yourself. But it's really the mirror telling you. Because what if you didn't have that mirror in front of you? How would you feel when you walked out of the door? Think about it. You get dressed, you put the tie on, the shirt, you get all dressed up and everything, but you don't have a mirror to look at. How do you make the determination that you look good? Think about it for me. You need that mirror. But you're using it for the wrong purpose. This is just ensuring that that which I believe about myself is true. I'm well groomed. My hair is combed. I know my hair is combed. But is my hair to the liking of others? Yeah, you might comb it real good, but if you're stronger on your left hand got a better press than the right hand, so it may look lopsided. But is it clean? Is it combed? Do you get a picture taken and later look at the picture and see that mine was all lopsided? And what do you do to yourself when you see that your hair was lopsided? You start beating yourself up. Oh, it's a bad picture. Others are going to see this. They're going to think I'm a clown. They're going to think this about me. They're going to think that about me. Well, no matter how long you stood in front of the mirror and did all these things, somebody has something to say about you anyway. Believe that. Therefore, you failed at satisfying those who you intended to satisfy, those who you intended to have look at you in a particular way. So, with the analogy of the witch versus that of Snow White, right? Which is another message, but we won't get into that today. But it's a matter of looking at the content of their character. Was the witch good? Who's to say that the witch was not? Well, apparently it would be said of the other that the witch is bad. But based on the conditioning, based on the surroundings of the witch, what influences
did she have around her for her to be that way? How did she come to be that way? If you're in a village of witches, you're that way. If you don't deviate from that which is consistent with the values and the morals of that group, right, you will remain as such. Did you see Snow White's parents? Did you get any kind of understanding of the upbringing that she had? It was reflected further. Character, content of characters was further reflected where? In the little guys, the dwarfs. You saw each one of the dwarfs had a label placed upon them: grumpy, sleepy, so on and so forth. They all had characteristics. See, this is what everybody missed in the movie, which just solidifies the statement that I made, that people are not looking at themselves. People don't know who they truly are. Because if you look at this film through a different lens, right? A lens of searching for self, a self, a lens through which you are trying to learn about you. And it's this. I was going to do this show today on racism, um, and understanding the content and context of racism, especially in addressing, you know, can blacks be racist? That was the original uh, uh, thought that I had, and then it moved into the self worth thing, because it all ties in. But it's a matter of, when you look at things, how do you look at things? I look at things, and it aids me in learning about human behavior, right? It was very glaring, both, when we saw, what is the movie with the blue people? Hell, the name escapes. But we saw the people were blue, and we saw the oppressors of the people. They were white, so we saw it in black and white. We saw it in black versus white. And when I say we, I'm just speaking as a group, as opposed to separating myself out, because this was something that blacks, many blacks, saw this movie as, because of the conditions that we experience every day. We saw this people who were living freely, who were at peace, who had an attachment to, a connection to the environment, as we should as human beings. That we don't, but we saw all of this peace, right? We saw all of that, and then we saw the whites come, right? And they came along, and even though there were black officers, blacks that were attached to this, we still saw it from a perspective of race. Therefore, everything we saw, we began to relate to, instead of looking at it from a a different lens. So it depends on the environment that you're in. It depends on the influences that you have in your life, and how you absorb those influences, and how they then turn into, they manifest in varied ways, which increases one's aggression. But if this is not your self worth, if this is not your value, then why have we adopted it to our lives? How did all of this come from a movie? Snow White, of all movies, right? We talk about what's in our schools, the books and things that are in our schools, but we don't look at fully what's in front of us, because we don't live with such a lens, which again is why we continue to struggle in relationships. Teletubbies. We have people who identified a character as being gay, and they didn't want to have their children watching that anymore. But we know that people are practicing different aspects of human development beyond that which we believe and we understand. So people are lesbian, they're gay, they bisexual, queer, LBGTQIA. I believe it is the proper context. But we know that exists. Do we want it taught in schools? It's taught in schools in varied capacities anyway. How is it taught? Firsthand. Somebody in the classroom is in that group. Should it be taught as instruction? Well, no, because where's the relevance to the purpose of education? Education has a foundation which is connected to employment and moving forward in other aspects of productivity. So, is there a place for that? No, that shouldn't be a curriculum. But you have the responsibility as a parent to teach that these groups of people exist. Agree or disagree. Don't have your child confronted with something not knowing and then dealing with it in an offending manner. Getting content off of social media, getting content from somebody else who is biased or anti. There's a lot of things that we learn if we watch with an open mind about any group. But when you look at Snow White, and maybe you should watch it today, look at the content of the character and the origination of that. Because each one of those characters represents a value. As ugly as you want to see the witch, it was important that the witch what? Maintained the position of being the fairest of them all. So ugly to who she was. Think about it. She still saw herself as beautiful. And she went to any extreme to ensure it stayed that way. That's in real life. What did it say about our content to say that she's in fact ugly? Who told us that she was ugly? We were forced by the structure of the film to believe that she is ugly because you put everything around her that didn't look like her. Was Grumpy cute? Was Sleepy cute? Was he ugly? What did the fairest look like? And I'm not talking about in race, but what did the fairest look like? Wrinkle free, unflawed, soft spoken, caring, loving, compassionate. Is it wrong to be grumpy? You ever see yourself before you get your caffeine in you? You ever see yourself when you're hungry? You ever see yourself driving behind the wheel of your car? Is that behavior when people cut you off and this, that, and the other? Is that behavior pretty? See, you really have to begin to look at things through a different lens. When you're looking to grow, when you're looking to develop as a person, you have to start thinking differently. So, regardless who was around you, your value remains intact. You always have to maintain your value. Let's look at the article. The article is by Sanjana Gupta. It's almost, I wonder if she's related to Sanjay Gupta, but well, but anyway. So this article was updated on May 8th, 2023. Sanjana Gupta, how to improve your self-worth and why it's important. To the article. If you've heard the term self-worth, you're probably wondering what exactly it means and why it's important. According to the American Psychological Association, your self worth is your evaluation of yourself as a capable and valuable human being, deserving of consideration and respect. It is an internal sense of being worthy of love. Now, let me also, state this if you're unfamiliar with my show, right? I present content as it is. Doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with anything in there, and I will tell you whether I don't agree or whether I agree. But I present it in the form of its natural origin, right? So anytime you want to call me to the table and question something, feel free. But this is the perspective from the article, right? Because this, for me, it is an internal sense of being worthy of love. Depends on your description of love, but this is the article. Back to the article. We often think about terms like respect, love, and consideration with regard to our relationships with others, such as our friends, family members, colleagues, and neighbors. However, the term self worth is a gauge of how much we respect, love, and value ourselves. People with positive self worth tend to have greater self confidence and self esteem. Having low self worth, on the other hand, means judging oneself harshly, having a low opinion of oneself, and tending to focus on one's mistakes and shortcomings rather than one's abilities and strengths. And there's a quote here by Sabrina Romanoff, side D. It's important to have self worth because it impacts everything you do, from your relationships to how you work, how you feel about yourself, and how others view you. Right? So let's start looking at some of the factors. It's important to understand that there's a difference between self confidence and self esteem. It really is. It's important to understand worth, self worth. Many relationships, and I do the whole parenting thing, the whole fatherhood thing, the whole, you know, uh, mending of the relationship between the two. And this is important to understand because a lot of times, people value uh, things that uh, the other doesn't, and they become values conflicts, you know. Uh, and we have to really begin to understand the conditioning of a person because we project it to the children, and we continue to cycle of low self-worth within the children because of our self-worth not being properly shaped. So it gets projected to the child. And we have children who come into adulthood with perspectives of self um, that are very negative in nature. So we have this generation that doesn't want to get up. They don't want to work. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. They want to complain. They want to be given things. You know, we've given that to them because of worth. And then we start having all of these body shaping things that they begin to do to themselves, um, and other conduct, which is indicative of a poor self perception, right? So let's go back to the factors that influence self worth. So, self worth is a subjective concept that can fluctuate based on many variables, right? According to Dr. Romanoff, these are some of the factors that may influence self worth. Core values and beliefs is at the top. How many people even have an understanding of what core values and beliefs are? When you begin to introduce external factors, let's talk about religion. And this is one of the factors that many are suggesting, uh, the factors that have removed or continued to decrease involvement in religion because of the inconsistencies that are being learned. So when a core belief is challenged, look at the origination. As a child, core beliefs, right, come from where? The caretaker. So the caretaker has a foundation of religion that is established within the home. The caretaker regurgitates content from their scripture to the child. The scripture was interpreted to them by another person. Whether the person is ordained or not is not relevant. But this is the person who is providing guidance through the scripture. That then is filtered into the person, and the person gives it back to the child based on what was given to them from the presenter of the information. They then read and regurgitate without an understanding to the child. Child now has this understanding that this is what I am. I'm Muslim, I'm Jew, I'm Christian, I'm Baptist, I'm Seventh Day. We go all of that. This is where core beliefs begin. It's where core beliefs begin and values begin. But the conduct that is shown by the deliverers of this information is inconsistent. It's inconsistent. We went from a point of a context where I should treat people in a respectful manner, yet demonstrating through gossip and other conduct towards other people something totally different. Our creation is as such where we don't need anybody to tell us anything. A mute person can live and never hear a word because the word is within. You kind of understand this. And really need for you to begin to look at life through a different lens. We don't need for anybody to tell us about what happened to another group of people because of what they failed to do. Because then you begin to believe that if I fail to do this, this is going to be my outcome in life, at the end of life. It's natural. It's a natural thing for us to interact with others. It's not unnatural. You don't need to teach a child how to walk because they're going to get up eventually when they feel like they want to walk. They're going to stand up without any kind of aid. They're going to have some sort of language. Depending where they are, the language will be understood. If not, one will come to understand because there's an attentiveness to the needs of the other person. That's natural. It's natural. When you get two people together who don't understand one another's language, they find a way to communicate. That's natural. So the core beliefs, right, are reshaped by external events. So this is where your values conflicts begin to happen. And they begin to happen because now you're thinking, you're looking at it from one way because you're feeling something. But then you have information that's given to you outside of you, that's presented to you outside of you, that now causes the conflict. Well, wait a minute. My conditioning is natural. I get along. I can talk to people. I can be afraid. I can be concerned. I can be angry. Those are natural things. We're taught that they're not natural. We're taught otherwise, and we're taught to think about the trauma that we've experienced in order for us to understand ourselves. But we have to go to the beginning of the difficulty. And the beginning of the difficulty comes in when the caretaker begins to influence and shape the values and beliefs of the child. Okay? So that's the first thing that's on that list because that's a factor that influences self worth. When I begin to have those values conflicts because I begin to see life through my own lens, I'm trying to understand, well, I was taught this, I was shown this, but why am I having some feelings about it? So it goes to the second bulleted item on this is thoughts and feelings. Because so now that we have the values conflicts, now we have to start looking at why the conflicts exist. What are we now thinking? Well, Uncle Frank told me this and he showed me this. Aunt D showed me this and she does this. Mr. Johnny down the street shows me this and he doesn't practice anything. My aunt and uncle, they practice this. But why do they practice this and why doesn't he practice that? And how come what it is that they say, these practices over here say that he says that but he doesn't practice? So if what you taught me is in alignment with what he's saying and inconsistent with what y'all are saying, I begin to gravitate towards Mr. Johnny down the street because what you instilled in me as the caretaker is more consistent with his actions and less with yours because y'all just it's not. And so now I'm going to talk to him more. Now I'm not understanding why, but I'm thinking now, and I begin to listen to him, and then I find something from him that becomes like that which I saw with them too. So now I'm feeling what? What am I feeling now? So I begin to disconnect from all of them because my core beliefs, my values are at odds with one another. And it's tearing me down. Because what you give to a person in influence are not just words, it becomes them. And so many people are confused about that which caretakers give them and what someone outside of that group tells them and shows them. This is why so many wind up in gangs. I think it was DMX. DMX, what was, I forget the name of the song, it was Walk With Me. And he said in there, what he talked about was his mother being in an abusive relationship, and how if he woke up in the morning and the dude was gone, he would have known it was wrong. He would have known that domestic violence was wrong, that a man beating on a woman was wrong. He would have known that if when he went to bed at night, they were there going through all of that. But when he woke up in the morning, dude was still there. But he'd have known it was wrong if dude was gone. See, you have to start looking at the origination in order for you to be able to fix this, because it can be fixed. So then it goes from thoughts and feelings to emotions and mental well-being. Yeah, follow this because it's real. Core beliefs are instilled in the home. Core beliefs and values are established within the home from the caretakers. Thoughts and feelings, right, now come into play because my core beliefs and values are at odds with one another. And this is the id, the ego, and the super ego. Remember, we had that conversation. So check out the video on the id, the ego, and the super ego. I think it's in 3 parts, right? So this is where your conflict comes in: your id, your ego, and your super ego, right? So it goes to emotions and well-being, mental well-being, because this is important. That we're talking about mental well-being. So you're at odds within yourself, right? Now you're confused as to which way you need to proceed to be able to have some stability in life. Now, not just from an adult perspective, I want you to also look at this from a child's perspective. A child doesn't understand these things. They can't interpret what's happening with them, which is, again, why we have to start looking at suicide, and understand that suicide is just not somebody who doesn't like themselves, who is tired of being bullied, right? It's more to it than that. If you have ever been in a situation where you are just severely torn, right, you have to make a decision when parents separate. Who do I blame? Who do I love? Who do I stay with? Who was I most connected with? And if that person I was most connected with is the person that's no longer there, how does that feel? How do I respond to that? How do I react to that? And then when I have the other parent who has the primary custody, how do I feel about that other person? And what does that do to me mentally? What does that do to me mentally? That I have to endure this person every day who I really have no relationship with, who I really have no connection with, and who continues to tell me negative things about the person who I am so connected to. You took that away from me. It's you. You and I don't have a relationship. Me and them, they did. Me and her, me and him did. You took. It's your fault. Now I'm living with you, but it's your fault. It's your fault that he's not here anymore. It's your fault that she's not here anymore. that we're not a family anymore. And y'all are the ones who taught me this value. Going back to core beliefs and values, the first bulleted item, y'all told me about the value of family. Now we're not together as a family. Maybe it's me. Maybe y'all did have that value. Maybe y'all respected the value of family before me, and maybe my coming changed that. Maybe that's what it is. My coming into your lives has changed that. I mean, wow, because y'all were together before me. It was love that, well, wasn't it? That brought the two of you together and made me. Wasn't that love, y'all? I was formed out of the love between the two of you, wasn't I? Or did y'all just? It's just confusing. So now the next bullet item it goes into here is experiences and interactions with others. So now my perception of a man has been shaped and formed by this man who abused a woman. Now I'm a male. How do I internalize that? I'm with you. You abused her, my mother. You took me away from her. She's not with us because of you. I have to stay with you. And you're going to abuse me too. I can't see her. And every time I ask about her, you yell and you scream at me and I just feel so afraid. And now I'm in a relationship and I do the same to her. Because you told me it was, well, she said, now as a man, when a woman raises her voice at me, I feel the need to react to it violently because you taught me that when she did this, but it wasn't about what she did. It was when you couldn't handle what she said and you acted this way. And then she raised her voice and then she was wrong for raising her voice. But it was you who provoked the situation by your belittling. So now you follow what's happening here about worth, self-worth, right? Experiences and interactions with others now. I'm in school. I'm snapping. I'm talking to the girls in the classroom in a derogatory manner because this is what I've learned from you. Or as a girl, I'm talking to the boys in this manner because this is what I learned from you. So my experiences, in whatever capacity they are, platonic, sexual, non-sexual, whatever the relationship is, the relationship is confusing for me because now this person who I feel something in here for that person. I really do like them, but I've been conditioned by my environment to act this way. Therefore, I continue to lose relationships over and over and over and over again as a child. And I enter into adulthood with the same behavior. I get someone pregnant or I get pregnant and I haven't dealt with this unresolved here. And then now it's all pushed upon not just the child, but the other person, and the other person who maybe has been doing some work on themselves, or maybe who has experienced similar in nature, has too failed to resolve this conditioning. Therefore, we're constantly going at each other, and the child is in the middle of it, and the child now, you see the cycle? Somebody has to stop this train. But you can't stop this train if you're not changing how you look at yourself. If you truly feel that you are more deserving of a particular thing, it doesn't mean that you act out aggressively towards the other person, trying to force that person to see through the same lens that you trying to see through yourself. Because remember, you're only trying to see through this lens, but you don't know how to solidify a foundation to stand on that so your self-worth can begin to build, because you have to go back to the core values and beliefs and start looking at those things, and you have to start sorting through what you truly believe, not what somebody gave you. Because you can change the conditioning of that relationship between you and that other person by taking a look at you and how you are reacting to things and how you are dealing things or not dealing with things in that relationship. Because if you value your life, you're more you're more apt to make those changes and apply the same to the value of the offending person, and also aid the child in not being susceptible, uh, uh, not being, what am I looking for here? Subjected, not being subjected to that which you got. We have the power to change any relationship, and you never have to change your values. You never have to change your core beliefs. You can tell somebody off in the most diplomatic of ways and just keep it moving. You don't have to offend people. Most of my interactions with people, I'm giving you a picked snapshot of me as opposed to telling you about you. So it's tell me about, and I use this in class all the time. I tell them to write this quote down. Make this situation when in conflict, make it a tell you about me situation instead of a tell you about you situation. So if you do something wrong, if you have the statement in your mind, when you do this, I. So when you yell at me, I feel belittled, I feel degraded. Therefore, I react in this manner. So I'm not telling you it's your fault. I'm telling you that when you do this, I shut down, and I may react inappropriately. I know that about myself. I'm good with that. I don't like feeling like that. I don't like acting that way. Yes, I do it. If we're going to be in a relationship, I need for you to understand that, because I need you to stop raising your voice at me. Yeah, I can continue to work on that, but that doesn't mean I have to continue to allow you to act this way towards me, because I'm not going to accept it. I'm just telling you about me. Do I need to do some work on the area? Maybe. What about you? What are you willing to do in this relationship? Again, you're establishing your value. You're not making yourself right, but you're establishing a value. I don't like to be yelled at. One of the things that I had to learn about was lecturing. Yeah, you don't lecture an adult unless you're there to do a lecture, right? I come from a conditioning of having to always explain myself, because obviously you're not trying to understand who I am, because you're not observing me, you're not listening to me. Therefore, when I feel that way, this is how I react. So I want to make sure you're clear. But that's what I want. But do I have to offend the other person? Do I have to make the other person feel less than or belittled because of my own needs? So I had to learn to, okay, you said it, move on. And that happened as a result of my core beliefs and values when I came out of the lifestyle that I was living, for so long, and began to realize, the hurt and pain that I was putting upon others because of my reactions to things, and beginning to understand my core values and beliefs. If you ever look at any of my posts on my social media, you'll see a lot about Libra, and everything so far that I've posted about Libra has been on point, right? So again, I believe in the science of humanity as well, as opposed to just focusing on what man has instilled within other men to understand about themselves. There's a whole science to living, and when you begin to see yourself as part of the scheme, the whole scheme of life, you begin to act differently. But experiences and interactions with others, relationships, both past and present, is an influence to self worth, how we see ourselves. And this is part of the difficulty in establishing new relationships, because if you come out of a situation with a person who uh, tended to display most of their less endearing traits, right? You come out of that relationship that it was ugly. These things, just like literally destroyed you. And then you meet someone who doesn't present as such. It's easy to fall prey to that and to believe that you have now found the one, because the comparison is to what the past was. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, you get some smooth talking, educated, you know, man, woman who you encounter, nice conversation, giggles and laughs, identifying with certain things, seeing some commonality, right? It's easy to fall prey to the belief that it's love, forgetting about there's the representative that always comes first, because there's an intent. I want something from you. If I'm having a conversation that's laden with compliments, I want something from you. Plain and simple. In the same way, past relationships are negatively affected with the unresolved from that same negative relationship that comes into this one, and you begin to treat me in the capacity, the one who you now are attracted to, the one who is helping you with all giggles and laughs and all this stuff. Now the turn comes. The representative leaves. And the unresolved you, is presented here in the present. Again, the cycle. Because when you have self worth that is established in you understanding how these things, these influences shape that. And when you understand that you don't need those things, that it's already within, you begin to reach inside and stop reaching outside for the solution. Oh, God is inside. So somebody say, well, but then there's God. God is no. God is you. Is you. Remember that. You have the power. Remember that. Health and physical fitness. We see all these things like, I was very involved in physical fitness for years. I was getting high and lifting. I'd be getting it in, puff, puff, and snort, or whatever, and still lifting, right? That was important because of a environment where I found it necessary. And then as years went on, I like the feel of being fit. The core value with that is like being, taking care of myself, you know, taking care of myself. But in the past, it was a matter of there was a need to emulate such to others, so you wouldn't be so quick, yeah, to step this way. That it ain't gonna be easy work. But when I was much younger, being a little skinny, light skinned kid back in the 60s, there was a need because I would just, I looked vulnerable. I looked like. So I stopped acting like. And I started acting this way and I became more aggressive, right? And I kept that flow of being more aggressive. And excuse me, in each phase of life that I encountered, I became more and more aggressive. And then when I detached from that lifestyle, I started becoming more and more humble, practicing more and more humility, and not being locked into the aggression. And again, circumstances around us every day influence that as well. But going back to the core beliefs and values, which was the first bulleted item on this list, looking at what are my core beliefs. Never wanted to hurt anybody. I never did. Most of the dudes I hung with, I hung with some crude dudes. Most of those dudes were about it. Don't blink. And for some reason, like they gravitated towards me, I gravitated towards them, but they didn't want me in none of that kind of stuff. You know. Now you go and chill in there. You ain't the old heads. We had old heads back then. Old heads. Now you come sit over here with us. Stay away from them. Cause you come chill over here with us. And I saw the difference in how they talked to me and how they treated me and how they dealt with me. But I listen, just wasn't that wasn't my value system. My value system wasn't walking around and bringing harm to people unnecessarily. You ain't doing nothing to me. What I got? Nah, that wasn't me. So I had to get back to that, and not just back to that from that sense, but you know, me structuring my being, restructuring my being. You know, me restructuring my being. I'm always told, hey, you always a professional. I've been, you know, I've been doing work to always conduct myself in an acceptable manner. My mother didn't teach me to act that way. My father didn't te- teach me to act that way. Caretakers that I had, my grandparents weren't teaching me that way. My Uncle Frank and Aunt Deanna weren't teaching me that way. My Uncle John and Aunt Cheryl, my Uncle Ray, they weren't teaching me that way. My grandparents, they weren't teaching me that. I didn't get that from them. So it was a matter of reaching back for those things that they taught me and seeing the naturalness of that, seeing the naturalness of that. Career or profession is the next bullet item on there. So, yeah, I've been a clinician for 30 years. Substance abuse, serious and persistent mental illnesses. And spent the last almost 6 years in the prisons, you know, uh, oversight leadership of others. So when you start looking at leadership, which is a whole nother show, which is something else I was on my mind this past week, but looking at leadership and what leadership means, you have so many people running around with BOSS, tattoos, necklaces, and everything is about being boss. But what does that mean? Just to be in charge? That's not leadership. Boss is boss. Leadership is leadership. They're two different things. They're two different things. I can have a boss, but does he uh, 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 demonstrate leadership in that position with that title? See, that's the difference, right? I don't want to be boss. I want to be a leader. So that means that all these things that preceded this bolded item here have to be in place. I have to understand and not, trying to be understood all the time. I have to know that I'm going to encounter attitudes and behaviors of others that are not in alignment with mine, but they don't have to be, because the expectation is just that you get the job done. How can I influence you to do the job and bypass those biases and prejudices that I myself have? So I didn't just have a job, I had a career, 30-year career. I was a professional throughout my career. I had to learn some things that I embraced, learn how some things that I embraced prior to this developmental stage of my life. I had to learn how to let some of those things go, right? Because there are things that are politically correct. I don't know how politics came into one's values and beliefs and how it's politically correct. So what that means is you can be canceled now. Whole nother discussion. But it didn't stop there. See, when I work for somebody, I'm working for you and I'm representing you, but first and foremost, I'm representing myself. Sabir Alim is a brand, my brand. Alim for you, LLC, is my brand. Daddy's Right Here, Incorporated, is a brand, right? Where did the brand originate? From my parents. From my parents, right? So I have to look at those things as my foundation of living, not what others have decided I am, should be, going to be, but from that foundation right there and my understanding and my relationship with God. It goes on to talk about activities and hobbies, community and social status, right? You have all the wrong people around you. I hear a lot of people complain about things that happen in our society. And I say, okay, so what is your contribution? Complaints? Everybody has one. It's like assholes, right? You always have a complaint. I tell myself, okay, you coming to me, what's the solution? You're telling me this is a problem. What's the solution? Oh, you want me to fix it? Why? Well, because you're in charge. No, you have the wrong perspective of what it means to be in charge. See, for me, being in charge means empowering you to bring about change in environment that we both participate in. So how can you bring about change in this environment by sitting and complaining? You can't. You can't. So when you come, bring a solution. If it doesn't violate policy, procedure, a standard, licensing, let's have it. That means that you're going to need to know policy, procedure, standards, licensing. And where are you going to get that information from? Oh, you're expecting me to teach you it. Well, I can tell you where it is. How about that? And you read it. And then you come back to me and you tell me how we can bring resolve within the parameters of these listed things. I think that's fair. That's how you empower people. That's empathy. That's you understanding that everybody didn't have a mentor like you did. I had mentors, and I still cheat and get mentors from afar. Just watch me. Yeah. That's how I started off my other life. They were my mentors. I watched them, and then I approached them when I thought I was ready to do what they do. Um, Physical appearance, childhood experiences. So when you look at that whole list, you look at that whole list of factors that influence self worth. There's a lot of work to be done. I don't have time to be fixing you. I got to fix me. There's so much to be done for you as an individual to maintain your happiness because your happiness is your responsibility. It is not the responsibility of others. Stop giving it to others. Stop holding others accountable for when you're unhappy for things that you don't do for yourself. If you are with me because you want me to make you happy, this ain't going to be long. If you're with anyone, a person should enhance what you have. Hey, so yeah, so anyway, this is what's going on, like Smooth. What's happening, brother? Yo, man, I'm checking the beard, man. See, I'm jealous, man. You know, because you got that beard, brother. I just, you got that beard, man. It's good to see you, man. I saw you the other day with your twin, with your twin. Yeah, she looks just like you, man. She's got that scowl just like you. Yeah, yeah. Good to see everyone. Reem Supreme, Philly Kitten. Good to see everybody. Girl, mom for life. But it's a matter of you know. There's some things that you just have to let go. Uh, so when I hear people say that they've outgrown a relationship, yeah, you can. It's easy to do. It's easy to do because you know when you start growing, you start you should start looking at the origination of you know where things were for you. If you sit down and you think about like when you lose a parent, like when my dad got murdered, right? I look back on the relationship that I didn't have with him. Therefore, I was grateful and thankful for me pursuing a relationship with him. So I didn't rely upon that which I was told about him and that which he had endured coming through his years of life and focus more on the foundation that he and I established before his death. Right. The other day, it's funny. I put on my Million Man March cap because that's where it really began for me and my dad. You know, I walked away from a lifestyle that was destructive, and weeks after that, you know, him and I got together. He said, "Hey, come on and go with me to the march." We went as Philadelphia marshals, so we had city marshal jackets, and we assisted with crowd control. Uh, at by the stage, I was like maybe 50 feet away from the podium, but it was like being locked arm in arm with my dad. My dad was also a union member, so the laborers union went with them, and I met a lot of good dudes with the laborers union. But it was like to be there with my father. And we're walking up Pennsylvania Avenue, you know, on our way to to do our duty, you know, because it is our duty to preserve and protect um, all humanity. And it was a great, wonderful thing that to start off our relationship in that manner. But I learned a lot of things from my father, you know, before he passed. But it's about understanding that if you go back to that when things get tough, go back to that and stay there because those values are important. Right, wrong, or indifferent. If you understand the struggle, you should better understand why your parents had to make the decision that was made for them to maybe no longer be together, for them to experience, substance abuse or whatever it was. They had to make that decision. You have to make decisions too. But your core values and your beliefs, locking onto them is important. The core values. It's not things that you got up in your mind. Core values are things that are innate, things that God blessed you to have. His attributes, patience, you know, uh, the knowledgeable. Severe means patience, perseverance. Aline means knowledgeable. I have those attributes, and they're reminders for me. For me, when somebody says severe, they're reminding me when situations happen. What is your name is severe? Be patient in this, brother. Show your knowledge, right? Don't might, brute, aggression. Those things are necessary at times, not in this time. You have to treat and teach at the same time. So you treat others with respect and you teach them about you and how you're going to be respected when you interact with me. And if you're not going to be, then I'm not going to change that. I'm going to let you know that, well, just don't mess with you. And I don't have to tell you I don't mess with you. I just don't mess with you. And I can do it quietly and even seeing you and in passing, greet you and keeping it moving. I ain't mad at you. That's your choice. You have the right to be who you are. I have the right to be who I am. It's the same perspective that I have with marriage. Fine. You want to continue? You can. Yeah, I'm not. I don't have any ill feelings towards my exes because it's not necessary. You have the right to be who you are. I have the right to be who I am and not accept certain things. No, that's not love. That's stupidity. There's a difference. You can't keep acting this way when I'm seeking to do this, or we're going different directions. We're not even going in the same direction because the representative often leaves, and when you're left with the core beliefs and values of a person who has not gone back into the origination of such, you're going to always have conflict. I was taught 30 years ago, if you don't leave the basics, you don't have to go back to the basics, right? So I went back and I haven't left because I stay with the basics. You know, I ain't got to debate with you about something that you stand on. What am I going to do to change that? I'm going to teach you about me. If I teach you about me, I then become the model. I don't have to open my mouth and respond to those things in the manner that you do. I can just keep on moving. That just sent you a message. You're wasting energy, brother, because you're not going to suck me in, or sister. You're not going to suck me in. See, you have to learn what you have and how to use it powerfully and never say anything to offend the other person. Which is not easy at all because some of us want to hold on to another side. I don't need to hold on to that side. I know it's there. I'm scared of that other side of me. I'm not scared of you. By no means. I fear none but God. I'm afraid of letting the other dude out the cage. And as long as I stay afraid of letting that other dude out the cage, I'm going to stay the course. When I get to the point of wanting to release the beast, that's a problem. Not not for you, for me. For me. So self-worth. You can take something to the pawn shop and say, this is what it's worth. I got this and I think it's worth that. Well, how much are you really worth? And how much do you really represent net worth when you come to me and saying, this is what I'm worth? You think because you come all shiny and looking new, that makes your value higher. Well, for the weak minded and low self esteem person, you do look high in value. But when you start talking, when you start acting, when you start treating me in this particular manner, your worth begins to get lower and lower and lower and lower. Because obviously, if you have formulated a concept, a self concept of your value based on your successes, based on your achievements, whatever they may be, whatever they may be, just some things to look at. Life is deep. We're so superficial in our interaction with each other. That's why people are so fake and phony. or perceived as such because you don't want to be real. You can't be real with you, so how can you be real with me? But going back to conclude today's show, watch Snow White. Watch it from the perspective of content of character. The witch saw herself as beautiful because the mirror told her that. When the mirror told her there's another in the land, she was furious. But she looked in that mirror every day. She believed that she was beautiful because the mirror told her so. How many times do you look in the mirror and say, yeah, I look good. I look fly. Huh? And walk away and enter into the octagon. And others start looking at you. They don't see you in the same light. And you begin to change. And you begin to defend what you think you look like. But look at the content of the witch's character. She believed she looked beautiful, no matter what any of us say. No matter how many moles she had on her face, no matter how green her skin was, we can look at her and say she's ugly. But she didn't see herself that way. And what was her reaction when somebody else came along who the mirror told her looked better? They know that they're not looking at you no more. Nah, it's another one. What was the content of Snow White's character? What was the content of the dwarf's character? Because each one of these characters represented an aspect of self. And y'all missed that. Why are you grumpy? Why are you sleepy? Each one of the characters, each one of those seven dwarfs represent seven characters. The witch represented another character. Each one of them showed the content of that character. What is the content of your character? Show it. Think about it. Just think about it. What do you show to others? I mean, you really got to look at it. What are you showing others? What do you believe and what are you showing others? As always, I thank y'all for tuning in. You can be doing anything else on a Saturday morning. You're listening to my mouth. Anything. What you hear. I appreciate it. Thank you. I will see you next Saturday. God willing. 9 a.m. Daddy's right here live. Thank you. Peace. I want to be tough guy. Make sure you check me out. Next Saturday, we'll follow up with some of this stuff here. Check out AleneForYou.com for the product line. AleneForYou.com. There's a knock on her door, telling her another man down. Can't be a provider if you're not beside her. You gotta live alone in that house where you had her. You got a life on hold, all the lies you told. When phone time comes, that's why conversations cold. Do you hear her cry? New music coming in a couple of weeks, y'all. I'm working on it. Right after the show, I'll be in the lab. Tough Guy's the name of this song. You'll find it on my album, You Want to Be Me. Thank you for tuning in. I want to be a tough guy. I lean for you. I lean for you. Check out the church. Got mugs, t-shirts, tote bags, phone cases. I lean for you.
Do you remember
The very first call.
without hesitation?
Yeah, lean.
Who did you call? Once you were free.
Who did you go see? The ones you call your dogs, your true enemy.
You're rotting and killing your brother's blood.
You're spilling.
Role model for your child.
Woo! Community villain.
You say she's holding you up. She's in the way. But you have no place of your
Your own and in her bed you lay.
Do you hear the cry? Why my baby has to die?
Like that shirt, don't you?
Told a lie.
Yeah,
And
like
lie.
that shirt. Look at that.
Would be the guy.
Like the biceps too, but anywho.
Cry.
Woo!
Why my baby has to die? Told a
Lie
lie.
after lie after lie.
Wanna be tough guy.
Wanna be tough guy.
I wanna be tough guy. I wanna be tough guy. You're a repeat offender. It's got a public offender. All you had is
Fake
pad.
pad.
This is what
Just man pretender.
you're walking around the yard.
Still talking smack.
But your homies from around the way.
You ain't watching your back.
You didn't know the rules when you got into this thing. What you thought you would get.
Was fortune and fame.
This fortune you got.
A flag you claim.
There's a bounty on your head.
Hey, Smooth Life. Mine's on its way. It's gonna be white soon. Letting it grow in, bro. Letting it grow in. I can't get it like you, but I can get something.
So the lie after lie after lie. I want to be tough time. Do you hear the cry? Why my baby haven't died?
Told a lie after lie after lie. I wanna be
Be tough guy.
tough guy.
I want to be tough guy. I want to be tough guy. Want to be tough guy. See, the moral of the story is you just consistent. Walking all your glory. Pockets full. And you never want to put it. The numbers they'll give you. You won't have a name. And if you ever see freedom, you'll probably won't retain. It's stabbed in the back. Both one and the same. But remember, one what you're in this world. They both had your back. You did them both real dirty. And that's the fact. One was your mother. The other, your mother. One loses the son. The other finds another. Did you hear cry? Why my baby have to die? For the lie after lie.
So next week we're going to continue on with how to improve your self-worth and why it's important. We're going to go into the list of how you gauge your self-worth, the importance of self-worth, and strategies so you can start getting your self-worth back in order. Yeah, I say back in order because it was there at one point in time somewhere along the line. You lost your way. Yeah. Oh, I want to be tough guy. Oh, I want to be tough guy. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Severe Aline. check out all of my music on your favorite music streaming platform. Yeah, there's about 3 albums out, 6 singles. Got another single that I'm working on as we speak, which should be ready to go in about another 2 to 3 weeks. Y'all have a great, wonderful day. Stay safe. Peace.